So my brother-in-law Paul asked me to tell him what my recipe was for soup. I make spinach, I just call it spinach soup, but it's spinach vegetable soup. And it is a something I just worked out. I didn't look up a recipe. I'm not a chef, I'm not a cook. I'm a guy who wants it to be easy and quick, nutritious, and not violate the diet that I'm on. I'm on a ketogenic, which means low carb diet. So this has got to be something that is keeping with the rules of ketogenic diets. So no grains, no excessive simple carbs, no sugars. These kind of carbs are fine, vegetable carbs. But this, and I'm gluten free, so it can't have wheat in it. So the basic of this whole thing is this better than bouillon. This stuff is wonderful. It makes a really good soup. They make a chili starter, they have a beef bouillon and a chicken. This is chicken. Works best with the vegetables, I find, although beef will work too. So first we start out with 2 cups of water, pour a little bit out, so it's a little less than 2 cups. That's an important measure because the bowl that I put it in doesn't quite hold 2 cups of soup. So start with 2 cups, pour a little bit out, put that back in. See, this is all very scientific. Now here's the measuring utensil that I use for the better than bouillon. I take a glob of it and put a glob in there. Glob, that's a cooking term for you people that don't know cooking. And this stuff is all my wife's, so that's why it looks nice. If it were mine, it would not be so clean. Then never lick a knife, so don't do that. You need 1 sharp knife and 1 measuring knife. So once you get the better than bouillon in there, you're halfway home. Any kind of a pot will work. It doesn't need to be big. It doesn't need to be something special. It just needs to be enough to hold 2 cups of water and not even be halfway up. It's fine. By the time you put all these vegetables and everything in there, it gets a little more full. So I like onions. I like lots of onions. Onions should be first because it takes them the longest to get soft. If you're using carrots, you got to put the carrots in early as well and cut them up in small parts because they take a long time to get soft. So there's a fancy way of dicing a carrot, or, well, you know, dice carrots, but dicing an onion, and then there's the easy way. Just chop it in one direction and then slice it down the other direction. Again, I like lots of onions in my soup. Currently, carrots have a little bit too much in the way of simple sugars in them, so I'm not using carrots in this particular soup, but I do often, when I'm not on the diet, I do put carrots in there. So throw your onions in there, stick the leftover onions either in the soup or back in, forget it. So back in the it's important to put onions in this kind of a thing, otherwise they make your milk and other stuff in the fridge smell funny. So something airtight, a Ziploc bag works too. So now we're past the onions. We need some of these little peppers. Cut off the ends, get the seeds out of them. I'm sure the seeds have lots of important nutrients in them, but they get stuck in my teeth and I don't like to eat them. So then you cut the pepper up in one direction, cut it up kind of small in the other direction, throw it in the pot. Some of these have more seeds than others. Some of them barely have any seeds, and others of them are like jam-packed with seeds. We have a sheepdog puppy his name is Xander. He's hoping that some of these vegetables will fall on the floor because he likes to eat anything crunchy. As do I. So just chop these up. They don't have to be real tiny, just so they get distributed evenly. You don't want all the peppers in one bite. Now my neighbor's dogs are out. So if you hear more dogs in the background, it's not Xander. Xander knows when not to bark. The neighbor's dogs do not know that. They're not as camera friendly. So I can't do this with the back door open. Not to mention it's winter here and we would be freezing. So let's chop these babies up. Yes, there's a better way to do this, but again, not a chef, not a cook. I'm a eater. And when my wife's not around, she is a wonderful cook, but when she's not around, I had to learn how to do something. So when she's at work, I do my own cooking. So I'm turning on the stove. You could hear that. Just a medium, get the water boiling flame. We can turn it down a little bit later. So the kinds of things I like to put in there are a little bit of oregano, because oregano is healthy. I don't put enough in there to affect the flavor. Turmeric, this stuff is like, it sticks to the edges, but according to most of the health food people that I read, turmeric is like magic. It's like magic potion of the spice world. The color in it, zeaxanthin, I believe, is what makes mustard yellow, and it is apparently like a superfood. So it's be really, really good for you. So I ran through that little jar, and I'm going to pull out the new one that I just bought if I can find it. Well, in the meantime, garlic. It's one of my favorite brands, Kirkland's. That means it's from Costco. So if you, I'm going to pan over here a little bit. Here's the pot. So there it is, boiling or starting to boil. Now this is a very scientific measure. Some garlic. You don't want to do too much garlic because you don't want to be puking people out. You know, other people in the home who are not eating garlic may not like garlic. So there's two ways to do spices. You can do that. You can just dump. If you're trying to get it evenly spread through food, you want to do it higher and it will kind of disperse in the air. Since we're going to be mixing this, we don't really care if it gets dispersed evenly. I like shallots. Shallots are like mild onions. And these are dried shallots. They're too small for me to take time to cut up myself, so these are great to have around. My lovely wife works at a major food retailer. This is not endorsed by them, but she works at Whole Foods, so she brings home some excellent stuff, which I get to try all kinds of cool things that I would not normally go out and buy. But we get a pretty hefty discount with them because she's a employee. So I am delighted to spend money at Whole Foods. Put that stuff away. I am now looking for... I love this stuff. So this is Spanish paprika. Any paprika will be good, but paprika is usually used just for color. Most people don't ever use it for anything but deviled eggs. It is really tasty, and read a book on spices as health food. I don't remember what it was called. But the woman went on for like one entire chapter on turmeric and another one on paprika. So apparently it's very good for you. I didn't write down any of the science, so I can't defend that personally, but I know it adds flavor to food when you use enough of it. And I'm reaching way back up into the cabinet for the new thing of new container of turmeric. So we can pour some more of that in there. So this is from a local grocery store, County Fair. They have bulk spices packaged in these large containers and really cheap. That's about as cheap as turmeric gets, $4.99 for this 6.5 ounce container. It's a super bargain. I do like their stuff. And this is brand new, so I have to open this. Get your container thing off of there. Apparently child-proof spices. Not sure why that would be. Just to keep it fresh, I guess. So then we put some more turmeric in there. Woo! A little bit too much. I like extra spices. Some people that would ruin it. So you got to be careful when you put this stuff in. Now myself a spoon, so just a plain old spoon. It doesn't have to be anything special. And just mix it in. See, if you leave that stuff sitting on the top, it's going to cake around the edges of the pot and you won't get the benefit of it. Now, I'm sure if I went back and reread the book on spices as superfoods, I would realize that I'm doing some of these wrong. I think turmeric you don't want to boil, and oregano you do want to boil. So I'm sure I'm getting it wrong on some of these. So if you have specific information about how to use these spices, I'll be delighted to hear it. But today I'm not that worried. So I'm going to let this sit for a little bit. We're going to let it boil or just come to a simmer where you start seeing the boiling water around the edges, and then turn it down. After it hits that point, and I know it's good and hot, and the carrots, if there were carrots in there, but the onions are softer, I'll then put in the spinach. Spinach does not need to be cooked long. It gets soft and perfect really quickly. So I'm going to take a minute to talk about spinach while we're waiting for the water to boil, because it's there's a guy named Hiram Cook who's got a YouTube channel that he tests little stoves, and when you win a contest from Hiram, I was lucky enough to win a contest from him, although I like to think of it as he sent me something because I'm a good guy. Hiram sends out a sticker with his prizes that you're apparently supposed to put on your bumper that says, "I like to watch Hiram boil water." No one likes to watch me boil water, so while we're talking about it, or while we're waiting for that, we'll talk about spinach. So baby spinach is not necessary. It is more expensive, and in these containers it gets a little bit mealy sometimes. It gets almost like you boiled it, pre-boiled it, if you let it sit too long, so you got to be careful with your dates. This big of a container I can go through it in a week just on my own, because I eat a lot of spinach. Most people do not, and it won't last that long, and this would be a waste, so a smaller bag might be good. I actually like to go into health food store or into grocery stores on trips and buy a salad size bag of baby spinach for road trips. It's good to snack on and much healthier than potato chips, or my other traditional car food is peanut M&Ms, and those are great in small quantities, but not real great when you have a lot of them. So the reason I use baby spinach is because I don't have to cut it. So I don't have to spend time cutting it, and it has a much milder flavor. Regular spinach, the more adult spinach with the big leaves, I have to slice it up. Ooh, we're getting a little too boily there, a little too vigorous. So let's turn that down a little bit now. Just turn it way low. Camera probably won't even see that when we go back. The older spinach is fine. It has a nice flavor of its own, but this is a little bit more mild. For snacking, this is much better. But for soup, either one works. I just don't have to cut this. So since I go through it pretty quickly, I don't mind paying a little bit more for it on times when I'm on a budget, or if I only have a limited amount of money in my pocket, I might buy the other stuff and chop it up. I don't like the long stringy pieces. If you're trying to eat soup, you want it to sit on your spoon. You don't want to have it stringing all over the place, and because of that, cutting it becomes important. So measuring the spinach is again not an exact science. So I'm sticking some in there, and then I stick some more. That's a very scientific way to describe it, I think. And then I put some more. Careful not to stick your fingers into the boiling water. That could hurt. Please try this at home. Just don't burn yourself. And kids, have mom help you. Also, married guys, have your wife help you. It's a nice thing to cook together. It's nice. try to help my wife in the kitchen whenever I can, because it's one of the few times we get to spend together. So, even if I'm just talking at her, I like to be in the kitchen with her. So the spinach will go, you can tell by color how cooked it is. So it goes from this sort of light green to a dark green almost immediately. And when it starts to get dark green and wilty, like it can't really, it's really almost fallen apart, you've gone a little too far. It still tastes fine. It's just gone a little bit too far. So you want to have it be an actual, you can feel it in your mouth, but you don't want to have it be, I don't like it crunchy. You do whatever you want. You could put it in right before it goes in, or actually in the bowl, you could do that. Now that's not quite enough spinach for me. So I'm going to put a little bit more spinach. And I'm going to try and find one of these leaves that's gone bad in here. I'm sure there's one at the bottom. No, they all look pretty good. Oh, I was hoping something had gone bad, to show you what happens to it when it sits in the container too long. Leave your stuff in there an extra week. Don't eat it, and you'll know what I mean. You'll find out. So that's plenty of spinach in there. Now it's actually hard to. It's more solid than it is liquid, and this may just barely fit into the bowl. So let it sit. Put this stuff back in the fridge. It does not last if you don't put it in the fridge. And we're going to wait for maybe 2 more minutes on that. We'll get a nice sized bowl. I like these square ones. I learned that if you have a microwave and you microwave stuff in a square bowl, it is a little less likely to overflow. I don't know why. I don't know what it does. It just seems to overflow less. So if I'm making oatmeal in a bowl, the instant oatmeal in a microwave, it is less likely to overflow out of this than it is out of a round bowl. I'm not sure what that is or whether I'm imagining it, but I do it. So once you take this off the heat, if you put the back end of the pot into the bowl and pour it that way, you don't get it all over the counter. And then as the liquid is going in, take your spoon and gently plop that stuff in there. So this is nice, colorful, interesting soup. It has a lot of different textures, and you can use whatever you've got in your fridge. I'm just really partial to onions and spinach. If you want to make it with cauliflower, you can. My wife hates the smell of cauliflower when it's cooking. It stinks up the house. That is also very good for you, and it makes the soup a little more textury, if that's a word. Get some water running in your pot real quick, and it's easier to scrub those spices out of there. So very tasty stuff. It will need to cool a little bit for me. Some people can eat stuff really hot like that. I do not. But nice textures, really good color, lots of healthy vegetables. Drink the broth, whatever's left over. Sometimes if I put too much spice in there, it gets a little sludgy at the bottom. That's up to you whether you want to drink that down, but I do. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed it. Paul, I hope you were taking notes. See you guys later.